Ryan Poles had a decision to make, one that would either signal all-in aggression or calculated patience. And what went down in the 48 hours leading up to the trade deadline is something every Bears fan needs to understand right now. I've been digging through every report, every insider connection, and every strategic angle to bring you the full story of what almost happened, what actually happened, and what this means for our playoff push in the second half of this season. Stay locked in because the path Ryan Poles chose reveals everything about where this organization is headed. And trust me, by the end of this breakdown, you're going to see why this moment matters more than you might think. Welcome to Bears News Fan Report, your ultimate destination for breaking news, updated rumors, and insider analysis on our beloved Chicago Bears. I'm here to cut through the noise and deliver exactly what you need to know as we chase down a playoff spot. So let's set the stage for what's been one of the most intense weeks of the season. We're sitting at 5-3, which puts us in legitimate playoff contention for the first time in years. Caleb Williams is showing real progress under Ben Johnson's system. Our rookie weapons like Colston Loveland and Kyle Monangai are starting to emerge, and there's genuine optimism around Soldier Field that we haven't felt in a long time. But then Week 9 happened, and everything got complicated in a hurry. We lost defensive end Deo Odeingbo to a season-ending Achilles injury against the Bengals, which was devastating not just for Odeingbo personally, but for our entire defensive front. Losing a key piece of your pass rush in the middle of a playoff race creates immediate urgency, and that's exactly what Ryan Poles was facing as the trade deadline approached. The question became, how aggressive do we get to replace that production? Now, here's where things got really interesting, and this is where the rumor mill started spinning out of control. Multiple reports started connecting the Bears to trade Hendrickson, the elite pass rusher from the Cincinnati Bengals. Think about what that would have meant for a second. Hendrickson is one of the premier edge rushers in the entire league, a guy who's consistently generated double-digit sacks and would have instantly elevated our defensive front to another level. Dan Graciano from ESPN specifically linked Chicago to Hendrickson on November 2nd, suggesting that if he became available, the Bears should at least make the call. On paper, it made perfect sense. We need pass rush help. Hendrickson is a proven commodity, and we're trying to win now with a rookie quarterback showing real promise. The excitement among fans was palpable because landing a player of that caliber would have been a statement move. The kind of aggressive acquisition that signals a franchise is ready to compete at the highest level. But let's talk about the reality of what a Hendrickson trade would have actually required. Cincinnati was asking for a first-round pick, which is a massive price tag for any player, let alone someone who's over 30 years old with a contract situation that needed to be addressed. Hendrickson's projected market value sits around $133 million, and he's not signed beyond this season, which means you're potentially giving up a first-round pick for what amounts to a 2-month rental unless you're prepared to immediately negotiate a massive extension. That's where the calculus gets complicated for a team like ours. Yes, we're 5-3 and in the playoff hunt, but we're also building around a rookie quarterback. We've got a first-year head coach in Ben Johnson who's installing a new system, and mortgaging significant future assets for a short-term fix doesn't necessarily align with sustainable success. Ryan Poles has shown throughout his tenure that he's willing to be aggressive, but he's also proven he won't make panic moves that compromise the long-term vision of this franchise. Ben Johnson himself has made it clear he has no interest in a slow rebuild. He wants to win now. He wants to establish a competitive culture immediately, and that mentality has energized this entire organization. But there's a difference between being aggressive and being reckless, and that's the tightrope Poles was walking as the deadline approached. The standings say what they say, and at 5-3, we're absolutely in position to make noise in the NFC. But giving up a first-round pick for a rental player, no matter how talented, carries significant risk, especially when you're still in the early stages of building something special around Caleb Williams. On Tuesday, Jay Glazer from Fox Sports provided some crucial context that helped clarify where the Bears actually stood heading into the deadline. When a fan asked him on social media if Chicago would be active at the deadline, Glazer responded with something that immediately tempered expectation. He confirmed the Bears would be active, but made it clear that doesn't mean they'd land a big-name player. He explained that there simply aren't those level of players being shopped unless teams get a huge haul in return. And for guys like Hendrickson, whose deals are up after this year, that complicates things even further. Glazier specifically said he didn't see anything splashy coming from Chicago, which was the first real indication that the Hendrickson dream was probably just that, a dream. And that brings us to what actually went down. Later that same day, the Bears made their move. And while it wasn't the blockbuster some fans were hoping for, it's exactly the kind of calculated, strategic acquisition that makes sense for where we are as a franchise. Adam Schefter broke the news that the Browns were sending defensive end Joe Tryon-Shoyinka and a 7th-round pick to the Chicago Bears in exchange for a 6th-round pick. We essentially moved up 1 round in the draft while acquiring a young pass rusher with legitimate pedigree and upside. That's the move Ryan Poles made to address the Odeyingbo injury. And I'm going to explain why this is smarter than you might initially think. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka was a 1st-round pick of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back in 2021. So we're talking about a player who was evaluated as a premium talent coming out of college. Things didn't work out in Tampa, which happens, but he's still only 26 years old, which means he's entering his prime years as a pass rusher. He put up 15 sacks during his time with the Buccaneers before signing a 1-year deal with Cleveland worth $4.75 million. Now here's the key detail. He's appeared in all 8 games for the Browns this season, but has only played 31 defensive snaps. That tells you he wasn't getting opportunities in Cleveland's system, but it doesn't mean the talent isn't there. Sometimes players just need a change of scenery, a new scheme, and an opportunity to prove themselves. That's exactly what Tryon-Shoyinka is getting in Chicago. Think about what this move actually accomplished. We addressed an immediate need at edge rusher without sacrificing significant draft capital or taking on a massive contract. We're getting a former 1st-round pick who's still young, hungry, and motivated to prove he belongs in this league. We're also getting a 7th-round pick in the deal, which means we essentially moved up in the draft while adding a potential contributor to our defensive front. This is textbook Ryan Poles. Identify value, make smart trades, and don't overpay for short-term fixes. Is Tryon-Shoyinka Trey Hendrickson? No, of course not. But he's a low-risk, high-upside addition who will presumably get significant playing time in our system and has the physical tools to make an impact. That's the kind of move that championship organizations make when they're balancing present competitiveness with future sustainability. Now, let's talk about what's ahead, because this is where everything comes together. We're 5-3, sitting in a real playoff position, and we've got the New York Giants coming to town next week. As of Tuesday, we're favored by 3.5 points, which tells you the odds makers believe we should win this game. Caleb Williams is progressing every single week, showing the poise and decision-making that made him the #1 overall pick. Our rookie playmakers are starting to emerge, with Loveland and Monan Guy having breakout performances against Cincinnati. Ben Johnson's offensive system is clicking, and there's genuine belief throughout this locker room that we can make a run. Adding Tryon-Shoyinka gives us another body in the pass rush rotation, another option for the coaching staff to deploy in different situations, and another young player who's fighting to establish himself in this league. That's depth, that's competition, and that's how you build a complete roster. Here's my honest assessment of everything that went down this week. Part of me understands the fans who wanted the big splash, who wanted to see Ryan Poles go all in and trade for Hendrickson. The excitement of landing an elite player is real, and it would have sent a message that we're serious about winning right now. But the more I've studied this situation, the more I respect the restraint Poles showed. We didn't mortgage our future for a 2-month rental. We didn't give up a 1st-round pick for a player who's over 30 and would have required a massive extension. Instead, we made a smart, calculated move that addresses an immediate need while preserving our ability to continue building around Caleb Williams for years to come. That's leadership. That's vision. And that's why I trust Ryan Poles to navigate this franchise back to championship contention. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka might not be the household name that gets everyone fired up, but he's exactly the kind of player who can surprise people when given an opportunity. He's got 1st-round talent. He's in his prime years. And he's joining a defense that's hungry to prove itself in the second half of this season. I'm optimistic about what he can bring to this team. And I'm even more optimistic about where this franchise is headed under the leadership of Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson. We're 5-3. We're in the playoff hunt, and we've got a bright future ahead of us. That's something worth getting excited about. Now I want to hear from you. What's your take on the Bears not pulling the trigger on Trey Hendrickson? Do you think Ryan Poles made the right call by being conservative at the deadline, or would you have preferred a more aggressive move? And what are your expectations for Joe Tryon-Shoyinka now that he's joining our defensive front? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because I love hearing different perspectives. This community and your insights always add another layer to these conversations. If you want to stay locked in with the latest Bears news, roster moves, and in-depth analysis like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. I'm here bringing you content every single day to keep you informed and connected to this team we all love. Let's keep this momentum going. Let's support our Bears. And let's get ready to watch this team make a serious playoff. Thanks for watching Bears News Fan Report, and I'll catch you in the next one.